Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for Port Ipoh for organizing this Ipoh Music Symposium 2021. I'm Dr. Chai Suwei from UiTM Malaysia. I'm excited to present my paper entitled Gamelan with Piano and Gamelan on Piano. Exploration of the compositional techniques and performance aspect of Wilson Chu's Bersahut-sahutan for prepared piano, Gamelan Pelog and voice, and Paraphrase of a Javanese theme for piano solo. Here is a brief introduction. As we know, Gamelan is the music ensemble originated from Indonesia. According to Britannica Encyclopedia, Gamelan also spelled Gamelan or Gamelin. Gamel means to strike. Gamelan music always performed in ritual ceremonies, funerals, weddings, melancholy performance, and any other occasions. We know Balinese and Javanese gamelan are the two main types of gamelan music from Indonesia. Balinese gamelan are more strictly composed with limited room for improvisation, but with more broad change of dynamics, more change of dynamics and tempo. Whereas Javanese gamelan have more room for improvise and also is more gentle and more calm and more mysterious. I categorize the instruments into few categories, which has metallophone, strike on the metal bars, wooden xylophone, ideophone. Ideophone means the sound, the vibrations come from the instrument itself without any air, string, okay? Then membraphone, chordophone, and aerophone. Some gamelan will have chorus performance. Next, background of the study. So why gamelan music becomes so popular in overseas, in other foreign country? And how was it spread? It's because in 1889, there's a Paris exposition held, and people all over the countries come to present their best arts, culture, and music. And Debussy, the French composer, heard the amazing gamelan music, and from there he composed a lot of music, which inspired by gamelan. Since then, the composers worldwide slowly really explore on this gamelan music and compose gamelan-inspired compositions. And I found this really interesting, written by Debussy. He wrote, "The Javanese music, which is able to express every shade of meaning, even unmentionable shades, which make our tonic and dominant, seems like goals for use by naughty little children. The layered texture of Javanese gamelan music obey laws of counterpoint which make Palestrina seem like child's play." From this, we can see Debussy really looked down at the Western traditional music, where he really looked forward to those Javanese music, which has make him feel with more advanced approach. And I also did a thorough research on the repertoires written for piano, gamelan with piano, and also gamelan on piano. So we have the composition listed in chronological order and the countries. So what can you conclude from this list? Yeah, based on the countries written stated down here, we barely see, or we cannot see, we cannot see any Indonesian composition. We have French, USA, Malaysia, Korea, Canada, New Mexico, okay, Hungary, but we seldom see the Indonesian inspired, right? So this is why I want to research on a composition composed by a true Indonesian. And then this will lead to my statement of problem. Based on Yanti 2018, there are rarely compositions composed based on the gamelan and piano. Yeah, and Wilson Chu also support this. He mentioned, not many Indonesian composers are expert in piano, and also piano and gamelan instruments have different tunings, which make it difficult to mix them together in a real performance, because a lot of adjustment has to do. And also the level of education, musicologies are much higher and more appreciated in overseas. And this led to my research of objective, which I really want to explore how Indonesian pianists would compose gamelan-inspired music with a strong gamelan cultural background by focusing on the compositional technique. And I want to also provide insights for the performers in performing these gamelan-inspired pieces. When I have the idea, before this, when I have the idea to perform a piano solo piece which inspired by gamelan, it's really hard for me to find pieces. That's why I really want to promote these pieces and to let everybody to explore on what are the techniques used by Wilson from Indonesia in composing this. Okay, next. So who is Wilson? So Wilson is an Indonesian. He is an international pianist, composer, repetiteur, which he graduated his diploma from NAFA, Singapore, and his bachelor and master from Royal Conservatory, Scotland, RCS. He is now an associate professor in Chengdu University in China. Okay, so let's look at this piece together. Bersahut-sahutan. As we know, the meaning means call and response. This piece was composed in 2018 for prepared piano and for gender, kenung, bonang, gendang, ketuk, gong, and voice. So what is so special about this? When I explore this piece, this Bersahut-sahutan, the call and response really struck me the most because I hear Wilson directed the audience, okay, before the concert on what to sing, okay, and also the players from the gamelan, okay, the gamelan players sing this together, okay, the gendang player and also the gong player sing this in response. Mari kita bersahut-sahutan, mari kita bersahut-sahutan, suara gendang dan piano bersama gamelan tercinta. So while they are singing, and then Wilson will direct the audience to sing some motifs, some short phrases like e a and a. So let's listen to this piece together.
What I would like the audience to join us is to
You can
transform
put your headphone
the
in stuff.
the lyrics sing from Max and Simon. So there's a two pattern. The first pattern is a very simple response when you listen to dangdut performance. So it's like the next one is even crazier. So, I mean, there's actually a gesture. So, see with me. So, try to do it together. Again. Yeah. Wonderful. Everyone get everyone's musicians.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see the engagement of the audience and performer during the performance, right? They are singing a call and response in dangdut style, which I think I will be very excited when I'm performing or when I was sitting there and listen. So this is the climax. I think this is the climax of the whole of the piece itself. So next, we will move to the tuning system and prepared piano. So as we know, the gamelan and piano has very different tuning system. Piano, we have equal temperament. So when we put these two instruments together, we will think about, oh, can the sound mix, can the sound blend together? So that's why this caused Wilson choose to use prepared piano, because we can put objects inside the piano and then to change the tone color, okay, to explore on the possibilities of the piano's sound and experimenting how it can be blended with the gamelan. So what he followed was he used table of preparation in John Cage sonatas and interludes, okay, to prepare the piano. So we can see the objects used are the boards, the nuts, okay, the screws or plastic ruler erasers with specific sizes indicated in this table, and also the distance between the objects and the sound bridge of the piano was written down here, so it formed as a guideline for Wilson when preparing it. And also this document published by New York Public Library in 1949 is really helpful because it contains all the very detailed direction by Cage for the performer, the pianist when preparing. I find one very interesting, which is he mentioned pianists has to be really patient because they will need 2 to 8 hours to prepare the piano. Okay, so this in order to make this happen, all pianists has to be really patient, and also they need to also discuss with the piano technician on how to adjust the string and discuss with the gamelan players, is the sound blended well, etc. And this is the picture of Wilson Chu's prepared piano on Yamaha C5. So let's listen to this. Yeah, before we listen, actually, Wilson mentioned quite a few challenges when do this, because the model of the piano is different based on John Cage, and also it's really hard to get the specific objects in the size indicated in John Cage table. So it's very, his suggestion is, advice for pianist is, it's just an experimental piece, so experiment whatever you want, or putting the objects on the piano and get the sound. So now I'm including the prepared piano sound by Wilson, and also a short performance clip by him on the prepared piano solo, yeah, his solo improvisation.
Like this, the whole piano. So if I play from here,
Yeah, we can hear the lower register has more shimmering effect, and the higher register actually, because he has a lot of melody to play, so he actually focus on putting the objects towards the middle range to the lower register of the piano. So next, we'll move to next piece, which is the Paraphrase on a Javanese theme for piano solo. This piece was composed in 2015 and was dedicated to a famous pianist called Madame Valentina Lisitsa when she visited Indonesia and Singapore. So the Pelog scale that Wilson used for paraphrase also similar to the Bersahut-sahutan. And then this paraphrase is a theme and variation. It started with the introduction, then the theme and variation, and moving to the finale and coda. So paraphrase means we make something using another word to make something similar, the meaning. So in this context, paraphrase in this music means Wilson Chu is using the melody, the cantus firmus melody, the Pelog scale from the Pelog scale, and he used this melody and built the variation from it. Okay, so the diagram here shows the theme used by Wilson. And before we go deeper, we should understand that gamelan music focusing a lot on multi-layered texture. So as we know, different instruments have different sound quality and also different kind of character. They have different kind of character. So for the gong, compo, kanong, this kind of instruments, we label it as interpunctuation or colotomic structure, where whenever we hear a gong was hit, then the gamelan players will know, oh, this is the indication of the beginning of the phrase or the ending of the phrase. And for melody, we have three different types. Balongan, which play the main melody, which limited to one octave, and elaborated melody played by rebab, sitar, suling, kambang, gender, and bonang act like the mediator between balongan and the elaborating melody. And lastly, we have the gendang, we keep the time. So this multi-layer texture is seen in Wilson's paraphrase in variation 1. As you can see the score here, we can see this bass, like the gong playing the colotomic structure, and then the soprano over here we can see, we can imagine it's like the slantum, and then we accompanied by the kanong on the alto, and also the tenor we can imagine the sound like the bonang, you know. So let's listen to this piece together and focus on the multi-layered texture in the solo piano. Yeah, you can see all these features, the multi-layered texture was seen in the music itself. Next, Debussian musical language. Okay, so because just now I mentioned about Debussy, right, the French composer. So this is the piece taken from Debussy, The Girls with the Flaxen Hair. As we know, Debussy is famous with his unaccompanied melody, doubling of melodies with octave, and using a lot of intervals, second, fourth, and fifth. And this appear in Wilson Chu's composition too, especially in this, the introduction. Okay, let's listen to this introduction and theme 1, which has these features. Octave doubling. And now we move to the theme, the variation 1. The cantus firmus melody. The second, like the bonang. Yeah. All right. So next one, pencha technique. So what is pencha technique? Pencha technique, according to Berg, he said pencha technique has become one of the elaboration device that appears in gamelan music. When the theme is accompanied by the notes recurring for several bars, it gives an impression of the melody hanging from a straight line. The recurring notes form the vibrating and sustaining sound of gamelan. As you can see from the score, you see a lot of semiquavers recurring in every bar it hanging from the melody in the bass. So it's created a kind of resonating sound. Okay, let's listen to this clip. Yeah, right. You can see da 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 da, okay, creating a kind of resonance. Okay, next one. We can also see the influence by Bartok, okay, dance like character in Wilson's variation 6 and also the finale. As you can see from Bartok sonata, we saw a lot of arpeggiated cluster and also the seconds offbeat second. This appear also in Wilson's finale. We will see the clusters, okay, arpeggiation and also a lot of us offbeat, okay, performance, offbeat cluster over here. Okay, let's listen to this clip. And at the end, you can see the virtuosity, the octave performed, very brilliante performance, which has the Lisztian influence. So in this variation 6 and also this finale, actually Wilson said, the idea of which gamelan instrument is not really portrayed here, but more for a virtuosic approach for pianists. When Indonesians sit together in the pendopo or outdoor hall, the guests will be entertained by dancers and gamelan. The dancers dance in many rhythms, some are freestyle, some are not, and he takes this pattern as one of his very own rhythmic motifs. Let's listen together. Yes, this is really bravo ending, which display the mixture, the blend of the Western styles into the gamelan ideas. You know, this is really interesting. So the conclusion is both Wilson choose Bersahut-sahutan and Paraphrase are experimental pieces that inspired by gamelan. The purpose of this paper is to guide the performers, especially the classical trained pianists like me, when performing contemporary art music that is gamelan inspired. The pianist needs to understand the ethic around gamelan instruments, such as the instruments should not be stepped over, the mallets should be placed on the instruments but not on the ground. When the pianist is playing together with gamelan players for Bersahut-sahutan, the pianist needs to position themselves in a different sensory mode where the pianist needs to accommodate themselves to feel, to breathe, and to respond together with the gamelan ensemble. The communication and interaction between the pianist and gamelan players are primarily spontaneous and orally based during the performance. Walter stated that calmness, harmonious, and balance are important features of both Javanese mysticism and gamelan music. Bonomo also described that the gamelan performance should convey one primary rasa, okay, R-A-S-A, rasa, like feeling, where it is referring to the ability to express or perceive feeling or intuition. While performing Paraphrase, on the other hand, it will be a different performance perspective compared to Bersahut-sahutan. The pianist now has become a one-person gamelan ensemble where sound imagination plays a crucial role. Despite the virtuosity and technical demands needed on the pianist, he needs to hear how each variation synchronizes with appropriate gamelan instruments by imagination, and he must be able to capture different layers of gamelan sound into the piano playing. So that's my conclusion. I hope through this presentation we can see the innovative ideas of an Indonesian that composed gamelan inspired piece. And I sincerely hope that this will inspire more Malaysian composers to explore on the possibilities of combining the gamelan and piano. Because it's really hard for me to find pieces that really composed for gamelan piano, and I really hope that we will have more of these compositions, okay, in the future. So this is my references, and thank you everybody for spending time together with me. I hope you have gained some interesting ideas from these two compositions by Wilson Chu. Thank you.